Food safety is about handling, storing, and preparing food to prevent infection and help to make sure that our food keeps enough nutrients for us to have a healthy diet. Unsafe food and water means that it has been exposed to dirt and germs, or may even be rotten, which can cause infections or diseases such as diarrhea, meningitis, etc. Here are the 4 steps to maintain food safety. Number 1. Clean. Wash your hands and surfaces often. Germs that cause food poisoning can survive in many places and spread around your kitchen. Wash your hands for at least 20 seconds with soap and warm or cold water before, during, and after preparing food and before eating. Always wash hands after handling uncooked meat, chicken, and other poultry, seafood, flour, and eggs. Wash your utensils, cutting boards, and countertops with hot soapy water after preparing each food item. Rinse fresh fruits and vegetable under running water. Number 2. Separate. Don't cross-contaminate raw meat, poultry, seafoods, and eggs can spread germs to ready-to-eat food unless you keep them separate. When grocery shopping, keep raw meat, poultry, seafood, and their juices away from the other foods. Keep raw or marinating meat, poultry, seafood, and eggs separate from all other foods in the refrigerator. Store raw meat, poultry, and seafood in sealed containers or packages so the juices don't leak onto other foods. Use one cutting board or plate for raw meat, poultry, and seafood, and a separate cutting board or plate for produced bread and other foods that won't be cooked. Do not wash raw meat, poultry, or eggs. Washing this food can actually spread germs because juices may splash into your sinks and counters. Number 3. Cook the right temperature. Food is safely cooked when the internal temperature gets high enough to kill germs that can make you sick. The only way to tell if food is safely cooked is to use a food thermometer. You can tell if food is safely cooked by checking its color and texture, except for seafood. Use a food thermometer to ensure foods are cooked to a safe internal temperature. Learn how to place the thermometer correctly in different food to get an accurate reading. Number 4. Chill. Refrigerate promptly. Bacteria can multiply rapidly if left at room temperature or in the danger zone between 40 degrees Fahrenheit and 140 degrees Fahrenheit. Keep your refrigerator at 40 degrees Fahrenheit and or below and your freezer at 0 degrees Fahrenheit or below. And know when to throw food out before it spoils. If your refrigerator doesn't have a built-in thermometer, keep an appliance's thermometer inside it to check the temperature. Package warm or hot food into several clean, shallow containers and then refrigerate.
Safety procedure number 1, food packaging. We don't often think about the packaging that our food comes in or the role it plays in keeping our food safety. Not only does proper food packaging protect food from physical damage, allow for storage, handling, and shipping, but it also protects against chemical and microbiological contamination. Safety procedure number 2, protective materials. Even the ink that is used on packaging matters when it comes to safety procedures in packaging food. Consideration needs to be given to the ink to ensure that it does not contain dangerous substances that may pass through the packaging to the food. The food inside the packaging can have a direct impact on the type of ink used. For example, if the food being packaged is high in fat like cheese. Safety procedure number 3, safety labels. Proper labeling of food items is also an essential step when keeping food safe. An adverse health outcome can result from incorrect labeling, like a missing label on the list of ingredients. For example, there may be a nut-related ingredient in the food that didn't make the food label for one reason or another. This could put someone's life at risk if they have a deadly nut allergy. Procedure number 4, food preparation. How is the food being prepared? Our workers using proper washing techniques. Our workers wearing appropriate equipment like gloves and masks. All of these things come into play when preparing food. The highest of standards need to be applied to ensure no contaminants are getting into the food. Procedure number 5, manufacturing standards. The manufacturing process is another important procedure in packaging food. The manufacturing facility and the practices being used all needs to adhere to safety, quality, standards to ensure foods isn't compromised. An example of this is the environment in which food packaging is manufactured. The environment in the manufacturing facility has a direct impact on the safety of the food. Procedure number 6, food packaging regulations. Governments across the world place food packaging regulations upon manufacturers to ensure the safe and hygienic manufacturing of food packaging that comes into contact with food. These regulations ensure the best quality and hygienically manufactured packaging is used at all times. These 6 safety procedures in food packaging aim to keep consumers safe from chemical and microbiological contamination. Upholding regulations in the food packaging process ensures that consumers are purchasing food items that have their ingredients listed on the label and that have been prepared and manufactured correctly.
Now let's talk about the personal hygiene. These brochures include the personal hygiene protecting food from hazardous bacteria, toxin, and extraneous objects that could contaminate it. Food hygiene is the procedure utilized by a company that manufactures food to protect the general public from any hazardous or foodborne illness that may be brought on by microbial contamination. The practice of maintaining clean, hygienic conditions for every food handlers is a must. Preventing any bacteria from growing to a point where it could make people sick through processing the meal to eradicate any dangerous microorganism. Being unconscious to our actions around food can contaminate food. Practicing good hygiene in personal and in workplace can prevent the food contamination. Here in brochure, we include some of the good hygiene practices that everyone who can read it can follow. It includes the hand washing, hand sanitizing, hand care, single use of gloves, use of bare hands, and why we must remove our jewelries and accessories while working, and wearing the proper work attire. And lastly, let's inform our manager and boss when we get sick. Report it if you get sick while at work, because if you are ill, you may be restricted from working for good. And that's all. Let's now proceed with the food hygiene.
After Ms. Lamera discussed the personal hygiene and the good hygiene programs, of course, there is a benefit of it in the food industry. So, let me discuss what are the benefits of good hygiene in the food industry. We must know that the food safety, or referred as food hygiene, is a practice of handling, preparing, and storing the foods and the beverages, which lessen the chances of consumers to be contacted from the foodborne illnesses. There are rules that we may follow to avoid us from contamination and also in food poisoning. First is cleaning. Washing your hands and work surfaces before, during, and after preparing foods. Germs can survive in any places around your kitchen, including your hands, your utensils, cutting boards, and countertops. So cleaning is important. It must be in the number one rule. Next is separation. Separate raw meat, poultry, seafood, and eggs from ready-to-eat food. Also use separate cutting boards and keep raw meat away from other foods in your shopping cart and refrigerator. Third is cook. Cook food to the right internal temperature to kill harmful bacteria. Use a food thermometer. And according to healthline.com, the World Health Organization, or the WHO, notes that the bacteria are rapidly killed at temperature about 149 degrees Fahrenheit or 65 degrees Celsius. Next is chill. Keep your refrigerator 40 degrees Fahrenheit or below. Refrigerate leftovers within 2 hours of cooking or within 1 hour if the food is exposed to a temperature above 90 degrees Fahrenheit, like in a hot car. On the other hand, as an additional information, I will be discussing these topics. First is the reduction of food wastage. Next is reduce health risks. Next is food hygiene behavior. And lastly, keep reputation and proper working environment. First is the reduction of food wastage. There are ways to avoid food waste. First is we should shop smart. Through buying in a bulk way, be convenient. Research has shown that these shopping methods lead to more food waste. To avoid buying more than you need, make frequent trips to the grocery store every few days rather than doing a bulk shopping. And additionally, try making a list of items that you need to buy and stick to that list. This will help you reduce impulse buying and reduce food waste as well. Next is storing foods correctly. Improper storage leads to a massive amount of food waste. And lastly, learn to preserve. Pickling, drying, canning, fermenting, freezing, and curing are all preservation methods you can use to make food last longer, thus reducing waste.
After personal hygiene and its benefits, let's talk about workplace hazard. So, what is workplace hazard? A workplace hazard refers to a situation within the workplace that has the potential to cause injury, adverse health effect for people, and damage to the equipment, and risks at work occur when the surrounding can lead to illness, injury, or even death. Equipment, dangerous materials, unsafe working practices, and human behavior are just a few of the many aspects of the workplace that can pose risks. The example of workplace hazard is slip, trips, and falls, including those that occur in restaurant kitchens, including wet, greasy or recently polished or waxed floors, spills of liquid and food materials, oily, greasy, or muddy shoes. The only thing that I can advise is to always be careful when working because even a small injury can hurt us, and always follow the guidelines to avoid accident at work. The other example of workplace hazard we will discuss by Mr. Pangan.
Thank you, Mr. Saklolo. We will discuss info and details about the workplace hazards. Any source that could potentially cause harm, damage, or unfavorable health effects to someone or something is a hazard. A risk is essentially the possibility of harm or a negative outcome. For example, to people as health effects, to organizations as property or equipment losses, or to the environment. A risk is essential the possibility of harm or negative outcome. For example, the people as health effects, to organization as a property or equipment losses, or the environment. The actual source of hazard may occasionally be referred to as the hazard rather than the harm that results from it. For instance, some people might refer to the illness tuberculosis or TB as a hazard, but in most cases, the hazard or hazardous biological agent would be the bacteria that causes TB, or what we call the Mycobacterium tuberculosis. The 5 types of workplace hazards are Number 1, safety hazards. While safety risks can affect an employee, those who use machinery or work on construction sites are more likely to be affected. Slips, trips, and falls using risky equipments and electrical hazards are all safety risks. Number 2, biological hazards. Biological hazards. This includes being exposed to harmful substances and illness brought on by working with infected people, animal, or plant materials. Biological hazards can be dangerous for workers in hospital, laboratories, and many more other outdoor occupations. Number 3, physical hazards. Those who work in hazardous environment or inclement weather are the subject to physical risk. Employees who are continuously exposed to loud noise, radiation, sunlight, and ultraviolet rays may be at risk. Number 4, ergonomic hazards. People who work in physical demanding jobs are subject to ergonomic risk. Manual labor jobs that include lifting and prolonged sitting can harm the body over time. Number 5, chemical hazards. Employees who work in positions where they are exposed to hazardous liquids, solvents, or flammable gases are most at risk from chemical risk. Environmental hazards. As water and air pollution, severe weather, or chemical exposures can have an impact on health in variety of ways. From causing acute illness like heat to causing to chronic diseases like cancer.